So the whole reason we're calling this a journey is because basically I bought a 64 custom shop Gibson reissue guitar, and I bought it here locally, so I tried it out in the shop and made sure I was good with everything. However, I remember on the way there saying, okay, so one thing about me is I get really nervous when I play in front of people, even if it's just like my mom or my husband who hears me play every day. So my hands start shaking a whole lot and I can't play anything, like even recording. I think later in the video you'll see where my hands are literally shaking and I mess up on the simplest of little strumming things. So that's just one thing about me, is I have a lot of anxiety about playing in front of other people. Which, by the way, if you just want to see the guitar in the end, I'm going to timestamp this thing. Go ahead, jump ahead. I'm just going to talk a lot about how we got here and why I say the things that I say about this particular guitar that I ended up with. So with that being said, on the way there, I was like, okay, whatever I get, which in my mind, I was intending the craziest thing I was going to buy that day, if I was going to be crazy, was a USA Gibson, like an SG. Because I had it, I bought off a marketplace a 2008 SG Special Faded, and that's how I got into these. And if we want to take it a step further, I got this Epiphone Les Paul Slash model. I think it's a 2020. Always thought that Epiphone was crap and I was not interested in Gibson. This changed a whole lot, and maybe we'll do a video about that another day. But anyway, love this thing, and it opened the Gibson world to me. So we got one off Marketplace because I was like, well, now I have a Les Paul, let's try out an SG. Expected to hate the body style. Looks too rock and roll, too masculine. But we ended up listing that guitar after I got a feel for it. It sold. I made a profit on that guitar and immediately missed that guitar. I knew I was going to miss it as soon as someone said they wanted to buy it. And so ever since then, it was a mission to replace it with a new Gibson. And so again, the craziest thing I was going to buy that day, if anything, was a USA Gibson. And that was going to be a serious splurge for me. Well, we go in the store, and what always happens, you get upsold. And so we're looking around, and I was like, do you have any special fadeds? Not realizing that the SG Special came with P90s, like historically that is the correct way. The one I had humbuckers, and so there was a little confusion there. They didn't exactly have that, but we got to talking, and I was talking about the custom shop that I used to have. It was a Fender, sold it, heavily regretted it, and was looking for something to kind of fill the void. And as we talked more, the salesman pulled out two different things. And when I say salesman, that kind of gives you a vibe of someone who's trying to sell. And when I say upsold, it gives you that vibe as well. What I want to tell you is that the guy was nothing but really super nice and just a joy to talk to. I don't have a lot of people in my life that know a lot about guitars. I spend way more time researching and collecting guitars, but I have a deep respect and appreciation for these instruments. And I do practice every day, and I have things that I play. And I want to lean into that a lot harder. Regardless, he was a cool guy, and I enjoyed talking to him because, like I said, I have no one else to talk to. Husband hears it all day, every day. Huge fan of it. My mom endures a little bit of it. The kids see it. But outside of that, there's no one to bounce ideas off of. I hop on Twitter every now and then, and kind of like, nobody knows who I am on there, and so it's kind of like an echo chamber of me like posting my guitars, and no one really, like, maybe there's one like, or somebody in the universe finds it somehow and they like it or whatever, but other than that, there's no one. So talking to him was really cool. I wouldn't call him a salesman in that he was trying to sell. Obviously, that is his job. Obviously, he would make a commission off of a sale. And obviously he wants to sell the best thing to be the best fit for the person. So there's an element of, yeah, he wants to push product, but it was much more than that for me. So with all that being said, there were two guitars, and going into this, I knew nothing about the custom shop SGs because that's not where my mind was. But sometimes a day will take you where you never knew it was going to go. And so he pulled out a 61 SG custom shop. That one was on consignment, so someone had brought that one in there. They wanted to kind of upgrade some gear, so they brought that one in to sell. And then he also pulled out the 64 reissue, so it has the Maestro Vibrola and all of that good stuff on it. And that was my first kind of like, this isn't going to go well because yeah, it's custom shop, but I'm never going to use the Vibrola. Like, that's so lame to me. They're light guitars. It's going to be awful. Like, it's such a gimmick. The Vibrola is such a gimmick. This is where my mind was at. And I don't remember, honestly, the 61 I don't think had Vibrola at all. It was much lighter. It was like, I want to say maybe it was a half a pound lighter. Could have been a little bit more. But initially I preferred that 61 because of the action and just the way I could bend the strings. And I think the Vibrola on the 64 has a lot to do with maybe me not being able to bend so much. Could be the strings that the other guy had on his versus the strings that were on the 64. Regardless, I preferred the 61. However, the neck was sticky. I know these things do that. I know that that's kind of like a trademark of these guitars. The neck is going to feel sticky most of the time. So I was kind of bouncing back and forth. The 61, being that it was used, was more cost effective. And so I was like, well, more cost effective. I like the way it feels being pulled this way. But I cannot make a decision in the store on the spot with people looking at me like, what's it going to be type of thing. And he wasn't really saying what's it going to be. He was like, let me give you 2 stands. You can A and B them to death, and anything else you need or whatever. But the way I work is I have to process outside of other people being around me. So me and my husband went to the car, had some lunch, and kind of talked through it. I needed to price these things out as well. You know, you always want to make sure you're getting a fair deal, especially on a used piece. Coming out of a guitar store, you might be better if you just buy a used piece. Sometimes from an individual. But there are perks definitely to buying used from a store. So what I was doing was price checking, and basically I could get that 61 from pretty much anywhere for that ballpark. The price that he was giving me on the custom seemed like a good deal. I was fine with it, and I think that you should never push negotiations farther than you're good with, if that makes sense. Like, don't try to rob someone if you're super good with walking out of the door at a certain price. So the price he gave us, we didn't have to haggle. He threw that number at us, and it felt good. I'm really particular about my everything. I'm particular about everything. And so any flaws on a guitar like that SG I bought off of Marketplace, I was not okay, you know, mentally with it having the heavy scratches that it had, because I didn't put them there. I know a guitar is going to get scratched, but it's cool if I'm like, remember that time that I like made a turn and I hit the headstock on the wall and now it has that little dent in it? Like, I like memories like that tied to the guitar. I have a particular strumming pattern and it happens to do something to the pick guard. I'm cool with that, but I like to know that I put it there. And when I didn't put it there and it's used, I wonder like how it happened. Like, how did this scratch get there? Because I don't see how that works. Like, so I knew that getting something used, I would never be 100% like invested in, if that makes sense. And so for those reasons, because I could get that 61 anywhere used for that price, this was going to be a new thing. Then the next question was, hey, I walked in here thinking the craziest thing I was going to do that I probably wouldn't even do would be a USA Gibson. And now we're talking about a custom shop. Like, what's going on with this day? So I sat there for a couple of minutes and I was like, let's just go have some fun. Let's go have some fun. So we walked back in there. There wasn't any immediate help for us at that time because the guy was like in another room or in a break or something. Picked up a couple of other things. The guy comes back and hands us the guitar again. And I just knew, yeah, this is what I want. Like, just holding it after holding those fenders, the thing that I'm in the market for is the SG. And so, yay, what a good day. So we check out. And the first kind of thing that happened was, this is like going into every detail. Again, fast forward if you want, but this is really to document like our journey with these guitars. So let's just tell the whole thing. We got home with it that night, plugged it into play. I have a light coming from the right side of me, so it's kind of shining onto the body. The neck is this way. And I immediately see what are not just surface scratches, but kind of moderate, you know, scratches. So not going down into the bare wood, but there was like an intricate pattern in it, kind of deep, you know what I mean? So not like something that I could buff out myself. And also the finish is VOS. And so you're really not trying to shine it up too much. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to buff out a new guitar, in my opinion. You should really get like a custom shop guitar in the condition you want it out of the box. Like, it should be a magical like kind of thing. to me. Those scratches were there, and like I said, the reason I made the decision I did is because I wanted every scratch to be mine. That's why I chose it over that 61, in addition to the non-sticky neck, and like the bigger neck is what I preferred. So the scratches were like, oh, this is a bummer, and I don't know if we're okay with these scratches. And I know people have various thoughts on that, and like, if it would have been nothing for you, I understand that. And if it would have been a big deal to you, I completely understand that. So my husband took it back the next day. They were like, we think we can buff this out. The owner did say, you know, they did an initial like polish or whatever, and it didn't take it completely out. And so the owner came over and he was like, hey, we think we can polish this a lot more, but it's going to change the finish. And so the VOS finish is like really, they call it like a vintage patina, but basically it's really dull and it's not shiny. And you know, you polish and buff it, it's going to be super shiny. Like, I don't think I want to do that. Like, the whole reason is the custom shop thing and the VOS. I don't know if I want to do that. But they continued to try to polish it, and it got shinier and shinier. I'm at home, so I don't even know what's going on. I think we're getting a refund at this point. But lo and behold, my husband comes home with the guitar. Yeah, the finish is different. It's now very shiny, but it doesn't have those scratches. I love the action on this guitar. I love the guitar itself. And so I'm like, okay, this is fine because the scratches aren't there. The finish will, you know, will dull out over time. It's not always going to be this shiny. It was just polished to death, like for hours, literally so many applications. So I was fine with that. It bothered me a little bit. I did take pictures of it and compared them to each other, and it was like, oh, the original look was just so cool, and now it's shiny. But that was way back in my brain, okay? And so then what happens is I plug it in and start to play, and of course you want to hear your pickups and stuff. And like I was saying earlier, on the way there, I said, I'm not going to turn this thing up too loud because I start shaking, I get nervous, my playing sounds like crap, and I don't want to be judged for my shaky playing and like freeze in fear. So I plugged that thing into an amp in the store, but I'm telling you, it was very low. Like, I didn't want anybody hearing me. And so I didn't really test out the pickups because I've never had a reason. I didn't care what the pickup sounded like. I trusted that they were going to sound like an SG, you know, like more or less. You can have different kinds of pickups. I don't really care about that particular component. But what happened was I plug it in and I'm changing pickups and there's no difference. Like, you can put it in the neck, you can put it in the bridge, middle, nowhere. Like, nowhere is there a difference. So I was like, crap, do you hear this? And I thought I was kind of going crazy. It's a brand new guitar. So I demoed it like 50 times, just hoping it would work. Like, toggle switch, just moved it back and forth, tried to de-dust it, everything I could think of that I've seen on videos, and it just didn't fix it. So even with that one tone though, you couldn't alter the tone knobs to do anything. It would kind of make the volume increase, but no tonal difference. It's really hard to describe, and it didn't work that way 100% of the time. So we have a video kind of demoing it. You'll see in that video, it works in one place and then it doesn't work in another place. So then we had to take it back again the next day. So my husband took it back again the next day, said scratches are gone was the main thing. She's super happy. And they were so, like I told you, spent hours trying to get those scratches out, wanted me to be happy. And we wanted to let them know that I was. And then we told him about the issue. They plug it in. Initially, it's not doing it. And then he's like, okay, I see what you're talking about. So they have a guy there that used to work for Gibson who's like, no problem. Who was actually responsible for getting those deep scratches out too. He was like, no problem. No problem with the electrics. He just went in and soldered something, barely touched it. And they demoed it in the store and good to go. So again, I don't know if this guitar is coming back home that day, if they're going to do a refund, if they're going to have to send it off to Gibson. Like, I'd be out at that point anyway, because it's a new guitar. I can just start over. Brings it back home and I'm like, oh, she's back. So good. So they fixed it. So we plug it in. Yes, I can hear a difference in the pickups. But now the problem is so bizarre and I still feel like I'm going crazy. The tone doesn't always work, even though the pickups are different now. So you can hear a difference in pickups. The tone doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. That's where you feel like you're going crazy. And you demo it over and over and you're like, do you hear a difference? Do you hear a difference? And there's no difference. And sometimes there is. But also, it sounds like the pickups, and I didn't, venture this far into the store because I didn't want anyone to hear me. But when you have it in the lead or the bridge, it sounds like a neck tone. and opposite. So when you have it in the neck, it sounds very honky and twangy. And I was like, this just sounds like it's wired backwards. And whether it was or not, I have no idea, but we you know, demoed it many times, and it sounded that way to me. I put it in the case, and then a couple hours later I pulled it back out like, was that crazy? And it wasn't working. And so at that point we had spent like 3 days in that shop, and then this would be our 4th trip. So we decided to return it, and it was really hard because I really wanted to like it and I wanted it to work out, and I felt bad that someone thought they had a commission and then they didn't. I felt horrible, and I still do. To the point where I really don't want to walk in that store because I feel that bad. Like they're going to think that we just wanted to be difficult, or we just wanted to have a guitar for a couple of days and then return it. I feel horrible. So that's what happened with that guitar. And so that's why I call this a journey to finding this one. We actually went to Nashville to pick up another guitar that was being repaired, and we went to like 3 or 4 stores, which I can do a video on in and of itself. But I held a lot of Gibsons, and we went to the Gibson garage as well. We're probably going to be pretty close to buying a guitar in there, despite the fact that, you know, you're going to pay full retail and tax if they don't ship it to you. It was like, okay, we know we're paying extra just because it's from the garage. Entirely separate story. I was shocked that we did not come home with a replacement SG that day. And I was open to USA, Gibson, Custom Shop, even an Epiphone. I was open to anything. Didn't come home with anything. So I was pretty proud of that, because I was like, well, we saved money. Like, we spent a big chunk, we returned that guitar, we didn't find another one. Awesome. Now we have money in the bank, you know? And that doesn't stop you when you have gear acquisition or guitar acquisition syndrome, gas, that's what they call it. When you have that, it never goes away. Like, if you want that one thing, you're going to like hone in on it until you get it. And so I'm watching videos of these guitars. I'm looking online to see who else has them. When you work with smaller or like independent shops, there's more room on price or whatever. So it's kind of going for that, but just looking online, didn't really find a whole lot. And I followed a couple on Reverb, a couple of brand new ones, and that's how I found Cream City Music. And so I was like, okay. I don't think I'd heard of Cream City Music. It might have crossed my YouTube subscription box or something. It was hazy though, so I don't think I'd ever heard of them. But I kind of told my husband, hey, this one's listed on Reverb. They're called Cream City, kind of far away. I don't know what the deal is, but he was open to calling them. I wasn't going to ask him to, but he was open. So he called, and I think he spoke with Chad, and Chad was like, they immediately... Cream City immediately like answers the phone, says, hey, I'm with these customers right now. My husband kind of told him our background of what we're looking for. No scratches, electronics work. Those are our main concerns. He said he would send some pictures and a video demo after he got done helping the customers. Johnny on the spot, like Chad sent those things lickety split, like faster than we could even respond again. Overall, just really pleased with the photos that were sent to us and the demeanor of the staff, because you know you always worry about like how you're going to be treated in a music shop, because despite the fact that some people want to sell a guitar, they don't care how they treat you. They're like kind of like, yeah, you know. So this guy was super nice, and it came through in every communication. We felt really good about it. It was actually a better deal than that first guitar. We bought the guitar. Now, you hear a lot of Gibson QC issue kind of things, and so that first guitar that I bought did not shock me at all. I was like, well, this is what everyone's talking about. Like, why didn't I just stick with Epiphone? Because this thing's solid as can be. Like, why am I trying to go down this Gibson QC road that everyone's already warned me about? Like, these things are true. When this guitar gets here, not expecting, there's always going to be some little quirks about each guitar, and I think that's what makes them cool, as long as those quirks don't outweigh the overall happiness that you have when you see the guitar. So I'm fully expecting some quirks. But let's see what we find here, because it could be interesting. But that's why I'm calling this whole thing a journey. That's why I'm over appreciative at some parts in the video, because it matters. Like when you get essentially a lemon and then you see what it could have been, you see the perfect example of what you're looking for, and it doesn't even have those tiny flaws you thought. That's mind-blowing. So exceeding the expectations would be mind-blowing on this. And so let's find out what we have when we finally get to unbox this thing.
Starting the band or something?
That's all my wife. She's the guitar player.
Okay, so with all that being said, let's go ahead and open the box. I did want to comment on the packaging of Cream City stuff. Like, you can tell it's double boxed, so you have this outer box with their logo on it. I think the logo looks amazing. First impression of the box. All right, let's cut into this and see what we got. Oh, so cool. Okay, so we have a Cream City Music sticker. Adore this. So cool. I love a good sticker. And since I love their logo so much, I'm very excited. Let's see what else we have. We have a Cream City postcard here. We have our invoice and a card. And this will kind of give you an example of how well things are packaged. We'll start with this layer of paper, and then we did get a Gibson box. Okay, another layer of paper, tucking that in there. We'll go ahead and pull this inner box out and we'll keep it going. Okay, so what's really cool about this box, just for people like me who just pay attention to every little detail, this is the original box that it shipped to the store in. A lot of times that's not possible because they can't keep every box they get, so they kind of like put different guitars in different brand boxes. So the fact that this is the OG box is just really cool to me. I'll probably keep this forever, as long as I have this guitar, which hopefully is forever. Let's go ahead and get into this. Check out the case that it comes in. And so with the Gibson packaging, we have this top insert here to protect the guitar further. We have a case inside that is wrapped in bubble wrap. So we'll go ahead and pull the case out and then we can look at the case. Okay, so we have the guitar out of the box. Here's the lovely case. Overall, the case is in great condition. There is a scuff marker too on the back. Again, most people I don't think would pay attention to any little stuff like this. Could even be like dust marks and stuff that you can just kind of wipe off, but put it back down like this. It comes with this typical hang tag that says the certificate is inside. Super excited, but also really nervous. So here we go, the first look at my new guitar. Okay, check out the interior of this case. I already kind of know what it looks like from previous experience, but whoa! Look at that.
Wow.
Ooh, okay. Looking good. Kind of some black marks here on the tremolo or vibrato, but they came right off. You have your aged hardware, it's looking good. I'll let you see the guitar up close in just a second, but this is just me taking it all in. So pretty special moment. I'm actually shaking. Oh well. So pig guard looks perfect. Oh yeah. It's got a VOS lacquer on it, so not as shiny as it could be, kind of like with a vintage patina on it. It's not a Murphy Lab, but again, the aged hardware and this VOS lacquer is a look that I really go for over the standard American versions. The headstock looks amazing. Now I guess it's all about picking it up and seeing how much it weighs and just getting a good feel for it. So a nice weight. The back of it's beautiful. In the pictures that we got of this, there was like a scratch on the back plate. I don't see that here. Just look at this. We'll get some close-up shots, but yeah, exactly what I wanted. I love the Vibrola, like the weight that it adds to the guitar, because, you know, these things tend to neck dive, and so this kind of bounces it out just a little bit. Some people say that it's like assist with tuning instability. I don't know about that, but we'll have to check it out. I do like to use it actually, just for fun, so that's why I did choose to go that route. The 64, larger neck than the 61, had to have that. It has, again, the aged hardware back here, and the aging on this particular one is more heavy than I've seen on others, so I'm really, really loving that. The neck is beautiful. Just the whole thing is perfect. It's just everything that they said it would be. One thing I do not see, so of course I say that, and then we have a little issue. There's no cover on the pickup selector here, so I don't know if we'll find that little knob in the case candy department, but we'll look in here real quick and find out. Let me find some place to sit this nicely so that we can look at the case candy. Okay, so we'll just open this up and see what's in here. We have the little booklet with the COA 64 SG standard and your serial number there. The pre-pack checklist, dated 1/4 of 23. Your vintage hang tag or your hang tag. Here's a more vintagey looking hang tag. Just very cool. You have your key for your case. We did find the tip for the pickup selector, so yay to that. Everything's good now, everything's perfect. And just a bag of goodies. More vintagey looking hang tags and information. I'm not gonna pull all of that out. Actually shows you how to use your pickups and different ways of selecting tone and all of that, so that's very nice. And then a moisture pack here. Super cool. Okay, so just let me tell you, dealing with Cream City was amazing. The purchase, I mean, they couldn't have been more quick in their responses. This is all like through email and a couple of phone calls. Great value. This guitar is everything we were looking for. We had some concerns. They understood what they were. They sent this one right. This one came right out of the factory sealed box. They demoed it for me. I was still nervous that I'd open this and find something crazy. I'm just so happy. So far, so good. Like looking this thing over, everything looks great. So we're gonna just jump in and get some close-ups of everything, maybe do a couple of tone tests and stuff like that. So stick around. With full tone, we'll just take the tone off of that, back it all the way to 0 on the neck. Just real quick, you don't know how happy that makes me. The first one of these I got, the tone selector did absolutely nothing. And like I said, the pickups were wired opposite of the selector. So if you were in the bridge, it would do the neck. It was just crazy. And I felt like I was going crazy. So the fact that I can hear a tonal difference when I use my tone knob is just perfection. So we'll go ahead and put it in the middle position and do that same thing. This is with both tones to 10, middle position. Now we'll back off the tone all the way. This is really just a test for me and not so much a showcase of the tonal range. And finally, my favorite, we'll put it in the bridge with the tone all the way to 10, volume to 10. And now we'll roll off the volume back to 0. Oh, okay. So that was purely for me, but showing you as well. There's plenty of videos that kind of go through like no talking, just tone type of things. I didn't see as many with specs, and if someone actually did a break apart, like pulling the pickups out and stuff, I would love to watch that. There's a lot of videos on the 61s. I'm not even sure those do a teardown though. Anyway, I just wanted to test that those were working properly, and it seems like they are. So I'm gonna go have some fun with this thing. Oh, Captain, Mr. Lee. You gave me a lick to play in every guitar store I went into in Nashville. It was like, if you know, you know. Most people probably don't recall that little lick that you taught us, but I could use that anywhere I went, and it was like, yeah, I made that up, so thanks. It's a really good one, and it gets stuck in your head like all day, so definitely don't copyright strike me for that one. It's your art, but I use it all the time.
That.
Yeah. Whatever is over here is the zoo doo-doo.
That will go in.
Me smelling it?
Whatever's over here is the zoo doo-doo.
You guys know you smell a guitar. You know that you've got to, if you're not smelling your guitar, then this is the wrong channel. This is not just a tool. This is something to be smelled. Now, whether or not it is what the shop used on the fretboard that smells like zoo doo-doo, or the Plek machine, or any plethora of things, I'm not sure. I haven't had a ton of these. This is my first new custom shop guitar I've ever had, and my first custom shop Gibson for sure. But something smells like zoo doo-doo. I'm really fine with it. If you smell the body, you get a different smell. We'll get a whiff of the case later. So going into some final thoughts, one thing about this one was factory sealed prior to the shop opening it and looking at it for scratches and the various things that I would be concerned about buying something online. So scratches, do the electronics work, stuff like that. Can you set it up type of thing? And what I would say is every custom shop or Gibson or any, Gibson USA or any guitar that I've looked at in a shop or looked at the photos online of the demo guitars and stuff like that, most guitars, it can go two ways. So if you're wanting a guitar straight out of the box, there are advantages and disadvantages. I would always want a shop to go over something. So just having them open this, yet it's out of the box and no one else in the store is really going to play it except for the guy demoing it, then it comes straight to you. I think that's a great scenario. I think asking a guitar store to, no, don't open the box, just give it to me. There are things that the shop can find and kind of save you a headache with. So I would say if you can get straight out of the factory box, wait on it to come in, have the shop go over it, I would 100% say that. I can tell the difference because on every single guitar, and they're behind the counter or whatever, but nevertheless, they're going to let people try these guitars, and how else are they going to sell them if people aren't trying them? So I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is they pick up little things very easily. Like I thought this thing was going to come in and it was going to have some flaws. I had accepted if they're minor or whatever, every guitar has that. This one, I really feel like it's great. I could say a couple of things, but like the fretboard seemed like it was going to be kind of dry, and like looking at it, it seems like not as dark as some would be. that's just something so like, who cares? And if I don't care, I can't imagine a whole lot of people would. And if you're going for that these days, I would say like get an older Gibson, because I think the quality of the wood is different. I don't know if it's better or worse. I just think it's different, like lighter colored woods, even if it's rosewood. So that's that thought. We could always go into the diminishing returns thing. So obviously this is a custom shop guitar. I don't always buy custom shop guitars. This is the second one I've ever had in my life. The first one was a used custom shop Fender. I regret selling that thing like every day. It wasn't your typical custom shop Fender. It had a couple of cool things about it, but of course there are diminishing returns. This right here is an Epiphone. It's the first Gibson kind of guitar that I had after being a Fender fanatic for so long, and it turned me on to the Gibson brand. And I'm comfortable with this being my Les Paul forever because it's exceptional. I think it was made in 2020, so you know, Epiphone started like really being good along with Squier classic vibe guitars. So much so that there's almost an argument that you wouldn't need to go any higher in terms of like getting an American guitar. So when I compare a regular Gibson or even an Epiphone to this thing, is this thing worth the bump? It depends on what you mean by worth it. Obviously for me, with this thing sitting in my hands, I bought it, so it's worth it to me, but not because it plays 40 times better, not because it feels 40 times better. Does it feel better? Yes. Although there are some Epiphones that I held that feel very similar to this. I would almost say some of the Epiphones I've held feel more close to this custom shop than the USA Gibson. And I'm just saying that because I really went around the world to kind of hold a lot of different price points. It would feel super good to know that I spent a fraction of the cost on an Epiphone and still had as much fun. And I think you can do that. I really do. Something about the custom shop, probably because I sold my Fender custom shop, there was like this void of, oh, I don't have like a prize piece or whatever. I'm not going to keep this locked away in a case under a bed. I'm going to play it. I think that's what they're made for, and it's not so exotic that it's like, oh, I can't risk like messing this thing up because the value is going to plummet. It's not to that level. But I say if you have an Epiphone, if you have a Gibson USA, and you feel like there's not that cost difference, there's not. If you feel compelled to save up and get one of these, there's a value in that. So you can't go wrong either way. I'll say it like 400 times. If you're looking for something specific, the guys at Cream City will hook you up. There in no way, like in my wildest dreams, would they sponsor this. Nothing is being sponsored here. I can just vouch for them. And I think if we can keep music stores like this around, because there's some competition these days with Gibson selling their own stuff straight through their website. Initially, I was kind of pumped about Fender and Gibson doing that. You kind of cut out the middleman, and if you're not the middleman, why do you care? But there is a benefit to the middleman. And I think as long as we can keep that alive, we should strive for that. So let these guys at whatever music store that you're dealing with, like let those guys go to bat for you when you have issues, and kind of remove yourself from that piece of it. Just quite honestly blown away, because there's no QC issues that I've noted. I mean, looking at it with a fine-tooth comb, I'm just so excited. Still does the neck dive thing. So the Vibrola doesn't completely take that out. Going into getting an SG, you kind of have to like expect that it's going to do that. And once you're holding it, I wouldn't even say you're always fighting to have it up this way. Like I tend to kind of look at the fretboard anyway. And so I'm kind of tilting it back this way and raising it. It's not heavy by any means. It's one of the lighter guitars that you can get. So, unless that really bothers you and you try one out in a store, I would say forget about it. Like the neck tab thing, obviously you can attach a strap to this thing and kind of adjust it for optimization. But yeah, the neck tab thing just doesn't bother me at all. It's just not a thing. If it did, I never would go this route. Other final thoughts is once you get into SG land, if it's your thing, it's your thing. And I'm shocked that it's my thing. Being a Fender person especially, you're going for that aesthetic. This is anti-Fender aesthetic, if I can say that, because it looks very rock and roll. And I mean, obviously I'm a girl. This is very masculine looking to me. But but there's something about the sound, and it really dirties up. I mean, if you're wanting the, like, usually I use clean, so I have a JC 120, and then I have an older Fender amp, and so when you want to really get some dirt on it, I'll just plug it into that Fender amp, put on some distortion, some reverb, whatever, and this thing dirties up more so than any of my other guitars do. And so the more you play, I feel like the more you're looking for a more aggressive sound. That's just what I found. So for now, I'm, you know, kind of taking like Fender Strats. I have a lot of them. For right now, this thing makes them seem very boring. So I would say you can certainly be a Les Paul person. Again, this will be my forever Les Paul probably, so I probably won't invest too much more in a real Gibson like this is an Epiphone. Because this is a lighter weight, like the Les Paul is just bulky to me, and I think to a lot of people, especially if you're coming from something else. I can sit in bed with this thing. It's super thin. My arm fits onto it nicely. It has contours, whereas the Les Paul doesn't. So that's just something to think about. Accessibility. Pick it up, get in bed, chill, and play, plugged into an amp, versus doing that with that guitar. There's always like a crease on my forearm from the sharp lines. It sits in a weird spot because of where that bottom carve is. It's just not comfortable at all. So SG person for sure now. And that's why I went custom shop with this one, because this will be my main guitar. The neck on this thing. So historically, I would say that I was always going for like, okay, I want 9s on a super slim neck. I have a Jag Stang. It fits the bill perfectly for that. Although I did just put 10s on that one. But thinner doesn't always mean easier to play, especially depending on how you play. So going into this, before I knew what I knew about what I wanted, I would have said the 61 because it has the slimmest neck. And I would also not go for the Maestro on these things. I thought that was so dumb. I mean, if you're reading online forums and not actually playing these things, and I don't think people are wrong, but what they say is it's going to throw the thing out of tune all the time. And to me, it's a gimmick. It's like no matter what I'm doing with this thing, it sounds like a gimmick. It's just like a sound effect that you put on the end that doesn't enhance anything. It just kind of makes it sound weird. That's user error. Like, I don't know how to make it beautiful yet, but once you have one of these, if you're me, might be a gimmick, but it always just feels so satisfying to like finish off a song or do a chord or something and then just grab this thing. It's just kind of like how you finish stuff. It's kind of addictive. So what I found was, like, when I'm holding a Fender and I don't have the whammy bar connected, I'll just kind of press on the end just to get that sound. So just never say never. I would have said never an SG. I would have said never a Vibrola on the thing if I do get an SG. It's going to make it heavier. It's going to throw it out of tune. I haven't found that it's thrown it out of tune at all. Just gotten it today though, so we'll see about that. And I also don't use it like to do dives with. Like, I'm not going to just like, you know, I'm not going to use it in that way. It's just kind of a gentle touch at the end. Connecting it to the Cloudburst is going to be a blast, just having some of those distorted, peaceful sounds. I can't wait to make more videos about specific stores that I've dealt with. We took a trip to Nashville, so I can tell you about those, but also some online stores that are pretty prominent on YouTube. I've had some buying experiences with some of those, and even some just not even buying, some communication as well. So I can't wait to comment on that stuff, but it is NGD. I got this new guitar today, and expectations are just, this is how new guitar day should feel. If you're walking away from new gear day or new guitar day and you don't feel like you won, try again, because you deserve to feel this way when you get your new guitar. Whether that's the lowest end you can find, because there are some gems in that price range, to mid to upper range, kind of like this, you deserve to feel like you won. So that's everything from the way it feels, the way it looks, how you feel financially after the transaction's over, how you felt like you were treated. Those things matter. And so just keep going until you find that feeling. And if you don't, don't feel bad about returning something. You're paying for what you're getting. And again, that's whether it's $200, $150 on up. You deserve to feel like you won. So I think with that being said, thank you for helping me document this. Main purpose was I keep going through these guitar adventures and I really wanted to remember them. because it's such a cool time in my life. It really is. And this is my way of documenting that, but also for those who want to come along for the ride with me while I do that. Just to have some conversation. When all is said and done, at the end of the day, plug in a guitar. I'm so lucky that my husband enjoys listening to me learn and play, and that he understands my need to like get my hands on these guitars. So thank you guys for watching. Any comments would be much appreciated. It's a great day for me. So thank you for helping me celebrate that. And with that being said, New Gear Day is done. Thank you guys.